And thanks for joining us here on this election night 2025. Voters across the region are making big decisions tonight, from the state level to local leadership races that could shape the future of our communities.
One of the most closely watched races is the race for Seattle mayor. Incumbent Mayor Bruce Harrell seeking a second term, and early returns show he's leading challenger Katie Wilson by more than 8,000 votes. Supporters on both sides are already reacting to these initial numbers. We have team coverage for you tonight. Steve Solis is standing by, tracking key races across the country, from New York to California. Chris Daniels and Jackie Ken are at the campaign watch parties for Seattle mayor, capturing the energy and response as those early results roll in. We begin tonight's coverage with senior reporter Chris Daniels in South Seattle tonight with reaction from Mayor Harrell. Chris.
Yeah, Molly, Katie Wilson was seen as the front runner in this race going into this election night. She won the primary by 10 points. She had been leading in the polls, which is why there is cautious optimism tonight from the Seattle mayor, Bruce Harrell, and his supporters. He described this race still as a nail biter, and here's what he told me about the next few days. Is 7 points big enough for you to win this election?
Well, that's the question. I mean, we'll every day we'll watch it, we hope, but we know we run a good campaign. We got the message out. Certainly there's a narrative between two different and distinct types. You know, we think we ran a stronger platform. We think we're more experienced and qualified for this job, and we'll see how the vote count plays out, but I'd rather be where we are than where she is right now.
So you're not declaring victory tonight?
No, I'm not declaring victory. I declare victory in life. And what I mean by that is, you saw my family up there. I can't lose with a family like that. But all of you have been around politics before, so I just want to thank people for believing in me, those that voted for me. We feel very good, and I'm so excited that the education levy passed. Most excited about that, and we put a lot of work into that, so that is clearly a victory. We will claim victory on that.
So here is what Harrell is alluding to and why he's not declaring victory with a 7-point lead. We have seen over and over through the years in Seattle that as the votes are counted on the Wednesday and Thursday of an election week, they lean towards the more progressive candidate. Just recently, a few years ago, the Seattle council member, Shama Sawant, also a socialist like Katie Wilson, was down 9 points on an election night and ended up winning her race. One thing I do want to point out, though, in this particular ballot drop, we did see two incumbents, the city attorney, Ann Davidson, and the city council president, Sarah Nelson, both lose decisively by double digits. A lot of those voters, however, still voted for the incumbent, Bruce Harrell. That's going to be one story to watch here in the coming days. For now, live in Seattle, I'm Chris Daniels, KOMO News.
We'll dig deeper into some of those other numbers soon, too, Chris. Thank you. Again, here in the mayor's race, the early results do show incumbent Mayor Harrell leading by 7%. Continuing our election coverage now, KOMO's Jackie Kent spoke with challenger Katie Wilson. So, Jackie, these clearly aren't the numbers Wilson wanted to see tonight, but how is she reacting?
That's right, Molly. And the party is over here on Beacon Hill, but Wilson says the fight is not. While she is trailing, she believes these numbers are promising, and she anticipates more votes to roll in her favor over the coming days, as Chris just alluded to. So let's show you what we saw here earlier tonight. Hundreds of people packed into the Centralia Cultural Center near the Beacon Hill light rail station. She chose this location, she says, because it's a community gathering place, a hub for social services and similar work. Throughout her campaign, she has said the status quo under Mayor Bruce Harrell is not working as many families struggle to make ends meet. She has promised to create 4,000 units of emergency housing to move more people off Seattle streets. At the podium after the first round of votes came in, she said she's proud she ran a clean campaign and that there's a chance she could still win.
It is not the end of our work together. It is the beginning. There is an awful lot that I want to accomplish as mayor. I want everyone in this great city of ours to have a roof over their head. I want universal childcare and free K-8 summer care.
And this mayoral election has been compared with the one in New York, where self-described socialist Zoran Mamdani won his race tonight. Incumbent Mayor Harrell in recent weeks has been hammering Wilson on her lack of elected experience, suggesting she's not qualified or prepared. Now back out here live, at one point during her speech, Wilson got emotional while thanking her husband and daughter, who were also here, her campaign team, and also many of the labor groups who have endorsed her and helped knock on more than 52,000 doors throughout her campaign. Again, we are still awaiting final results and should know more in the coming days. For now, live on Beacon Hill, Jackie Kent, KOMO News.
All right, thanks, Jackie. And that brings us to our KOMO Pulse poll tonight. You can scan the QR code there on your screen to participate. We're asking, do you think today's election results will have a positive impact on your community? This is a live look at the results tonight, and you can see an overwhelming majority of people here. 77% say no, only 20% say yes. Again, if you'd like to weigh in, just scan the QR code there on your screen. That'll take you directly to the story on KOMOnews.com.
And for a complete list of these election results, you can scan this QR code that's on your screen. It'll take you directly to the results page on our website, KOMOnews.com. And stay with KOMO News for continued election coverage and the updated results. We expect the next batch of numbers late tomorrow afternoon.
All right, joining us now, KOMO political analyst, strategist Ron Dotzauer, CEO of Strategies 360. Ron, thanks for joining us here tonight.
Yep.
Once again.
Wouldn't miss it.
Let's talk about the early returns here in the mayoral race. We heard Chris talk about the mayoral race there. It was Bruce Harrell. Bruce Harrell did not want to say, hey, I'm victorious yet, but he did say, you know, it was a good night, obviously a 7-point lead. But Chris was also talking about possibly Katie Wilson coming back from this. Where do you see these early results return here?
They're always tricky in Seattle because, you know, there's a history of a more progressive vote coming in a little bit late in the balloting. What may change this, first off, you know, she had a 10-point win in the primary, and she's 7 points down in the first runoff of ballots. So that's a 17-point swing, which bodes well for the mayor. Having said that, I think this is going to tighten, but I also think that he's really closed out the campaign. He kind of really got some legs underneath him at post-primary, and I think he ran a stronger campaign. So it's not over. It's probably going to be a couple of days before we really know, probably Thursday afternoon before we can be very certain. Molly and I chatted about that earlier today, and that's probably what we're going to be looking at before we'll know for sure.
Ron, I want to hear more about that, the campaign that you're talking about.
Yes.
You ran, because he was just also telling our Chris Daniels that he tried to make distinctions between him and Katie Wilson. What did he do that, in your eyes, worked here?
I think he really hammered on experience, because the contrast between his background and experience and her lack thereof was stark. And so, you know, if you got a strength, you play to your strength. And if somebody's got a weakness, you focus on their weakness. And so he was able to do both things, I think, in the campaign. Now, again, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, because I do expect this to tighten up a little bit. But as he said, and I agree, I'd rather be where he's at right now than where she is.
You know, Chris was talking about how some of the late vote is the progressive vote. Do you think there's enough of that progressive vote to make up the difference here and see Katie Wilson end up leading Harrell?
Well, if you just look at history, the answer to that question could be yes. Again, the difference here is I think that he ran a stronger in the last month. I think his campaign, he doorbelled 25,000 houses, which isn't what usually incumbents do. And so that may be enough to blunt that surge that usually occurs that was being discussed earlier. So again, hang on to your seats, tighten your belts. You know, we still got some numbers to look at in the next 48 hours before we know for sure. But he's probably going to bed tonight feeling kind of okay about where he's sitting.
All right, Ron Dotzauer, Strategies 360. Thanks for being with us, Ron. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Well, now to more election results. There are 3 city council seats on the line. For District 2, Eddie Lynn currently leads the race with 69% of the vote over his opponent, Adonis Duckworth.
For Seattle Council District 8, incumbent Alexis Mercedes Rink is up for re-election. Rink currently leads that race with 79% of the vote against challenger Rachel Savage. And to Seattle Council position number 9 now, incumbent Council President Sarah Nelson is trying to hang on to her seat. Challenger Dion Foster has has a significant lead with 58% of the vote. Nelson trails by more than 18,000 votes tonight.
City Attorney Ann Davison trying to keep her seat. Preliminary results show one-term incumbent Davison is currently trailing Erica Evans by more than 28,000 votes. Speaking to supporters tonight, Evans celebrated what she called a historic moment for the city.
I feel so excited about the future of Seattle. There has never been a person of color ever as its leader as city attorney, and that changes tonight. Seattle's best days are still ahead, and the voters have declared that tonight with these results.
And for the first time since 2009, there is no incumbent in the race for King County Executive. And tonight, it's a close one. Gurmai Zahalai is leading Claudia Balducci by 2%.